Oh, it's a pleasure to have the legend himself, Marc Spears. The man owns the media room if you go to Warriors games behind the scenes, and now he's on Locked On Warriors. We're going to talk Warriors and his background, Andscape, the whole deal. I'm excited to have Marc Spears on next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Marc Spears, journalist for ESPN, Andscape, and so much more on Twitter at Marc J. Spears. It's Marc with a C. Marc, how are you doing, sir, this morning? And I guess let's start off with a new piece you wrote, even though it's not Warriors related. I don't care. You wrote a new fantastic piece on Kevin Durant and the drama surrounding around the Nets. Tell us how you're doing, sir. Thanks for coming on, man, and discuss your new piece, sir, if you don't mind.
Well, I like your theme music, man. Who made that? I'm curious.
Thanks.
Who was the artist?
I have no idea, man. Locked On produced it.
Okay, yeah, that's dope. It's got a nice little beat to it. No, I'm amazing. I'm a Bay Area native, so anything I could do in the Bay is always love for me. So I'm excited to be here, and I know we've been trying to figure this out for a while. I just was been jumping around a lot. I was in Sacramento last night. You don't have Kevin Durant in the area and not go see him, right? So
right.
Luckily I still have a great relationship with him, and about an hour after the game, he was very, very gracious with his time and gave me a nice one-on-one interview, and then I took the drive back. So it's been a pretty hectic couple days. Went to the Warriors game the day before, but I get paid to watch basketball for a living, so like I got some good problems, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's talk about you for a little bit. You said you're a Bay Area native. Where were you born? What town do you call home? Do you still live here? Give the people your whole roots, please, if you don't mind.
Well, I was actually born in St. Louis. My mother is from New Orleans. I think people hear a lot of New Orleans stuff. I got my master's from LSU.
Love New Orleans.
But
love it.
She actually wanted to go to a nursing school in New Orleans, and they wouldn't allow her to go to the one she wanted to go to because she was Black. So
Jesus Christ.
She ended up going to St. Louis, where she had some family that lived there, and there was an all-Black nursing school that she attended. Got her nursing degree there, met my father. They had me after they got married. She got a job at Stanford Hospital when I was like 3 years old.
Wow.
And so she had like an offer in Stanford Hospital and in Denver, and they chose to come to the Bay. And so, I grew up in San Jose, went to Hellier Elementary, Sylvandale Junior High School, Andrew Hill High School, played basketball there, did pretty well. Made the CCS All-Star game as a senior, was all Mount Hamilton Athletic League in basketball as a senior, so did well in hoop. And then, played at Foothill College in Los Altos for 2 years. Went to the University of DC, which is a HBCU, played there for a season. Ended up transferring there because transferring from there, academics weren't great. Then ended up going to San Jose State, blew out my knee, had some issues with the coach, which is a story for a lot. Like that, take the whole podcast but essentially I got pushed off the team for writing a story about the lack of Black coaches in college basketball.
Wow.
So it's a long story for another day.
Yes.
But graduated from there, went to Tulsa after that, and LA and Louisville, Kentucky, and Denver and Boston as a journalist. And then in 2009, I got an offer from Yahoo Sports to cover the NBA with a guy everybody knows as Woj.
Yeah.
And they told me to leave Boston and move out west. So I came back home, moved to Oakland, moved to Jack London Square, and the Warriors just happened to have a rookie at the time named Stephen Curry. So it's all kind of worked out since I got back.
I love hearing stories like that. I've lived all over the country as well, and to me that represents a broader perspective and a better understanding of the world around you, and it turns into greater journalism. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion. And I teach classes at San Jose State, so I really hope
Yeah.
whatever bigotry or existed then, I hope is gone now, man, because that's horrible, man. Let's do another show because
Yeah.
that story does sound incredibly interesting. I'd love to talk
Yeah.
about
No,
that.
that's a 30-minute story.
Yeah,
You
for
have
another
time
day.
today. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Spartan
man.
Daily wrote about it. I wrote about it on the Andscape, so if somebody wants to look it up.
Well, let's talk about Andscape, man. I want to
Yeah.
promote it earlier in the show. It's worthy. This is formerly the Undefeated. I'm my first curiosity is like, where'd the name Andscape come from? What's your role with it? Promote away, please. Tell the
Yeah.
audience.
No, I mean, definitely was kind of sad to change because I do think a lot of people are getting familiar with the name The Undefeated.
Same.
I think it was a great name. Um, I mentioned Durant. He had a show that he through his media company, a television show, and one of the kids in the television show was looking at his phone and said, "They're talking about us on Andscape. I mean, on the Undefeated." And I was like, "Oh, we made it." And then the name
Yes.
changed, but I think if you go back and look, like there's been a clothing brand with the same name. It's been around for a long time. And
Oh,
so they ended up having a little battle
it's a
and which led to
WWF story, basically, right? I mean, if you remember far back, the wrestling
yeah,
thing, they used to be WWF. The
yeah,
World Wildlife Federation was like, that's
yeah,
our acronym, and they
yeah.
had to change
So
to WWE. Similar thing or no?
yeah, similar but different, I guess you could say, where we ended up deciding just to change our name.
Gotcha.
And so Andscape is a name that they came up with that means Black Infinity, because a lot of the stories we write about are about African Americans in sports and culture and life, politics. But we also talk about just unique things of like people of all races, sexual, orientations, what have you. We're all over the map, but a lot of our stories about challenge, overcoming obstacles, triumph, motivational type stories. And so uh, I got another story today about how DeAndre Ayton from the Suns and his mother. His mother has Jamaican and Bahamian roots and is an amazing chef. And
Ooh.
she came up with this dish that a Phoenix restaurant starting today is using on their menu, and 10% of the proceeds is going to a charity that helps single mothers go to college.
That's awesome, man.
So I think one thing I kind of realized early on in my career is I was kind of that writer that when they had that press release, like, hey, Draymond Green is going to the Boys and Girls Club, and like a lot of other reporters would like, that sounds boring. I always felt like it was good to go not only to build my relationship with that athlete, but there's a reason why that athlete is passionate about that charity. And
Right.
typically there's a story, that goes back that involves their family, that has some depth and is just, definitely a story to tell. And I started getting a lot of great stories out of that, and I think the fans they know what kind of player they are, but what kind of person are they? What are they passionate about? What do they do off the court, off the field? And so I figured out a while ago that I think those are stories that fans love, and I've been able to get behind the scenes with a lot of athletes.
That's and yeah, I grew up with a single mom, so that always that touches me here when I hear
Yeah,
stories about that. And with every meal purchased, I believe these are culinary dropout locations, and the
yeah,
restaurant is the Henry in Arizona. 10% of sales go to Helping Hands for single moms. That's very admirable.
and I did get the meal. I went out and did the story, man. Some of the perks of the job. I have a great chef named Kenny Wood. So the restaurant, the Henry's in Scottsdale, and I went in the test kitchen, and the pigeon peas, the sea bass.
Oh,
He made some jerk chicken too. Like it was
mm,
amazing, man.
oh my God, man.
All in the guise of research.
Exactly. Of course, you're working. Yes, you're
Research
doing
for
your
my
job,
store.
sir.
If
We're
you
gonna
go to
have
the
more with
store,
Mark.
you can see the picture of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, all you got to do is just go to andscape.com, correct?
Yeah.
And they can see all this website is clean as well. We're gonna have more with Marc Spears in just a moment. Got to give some love to a couple of sponsors of Locked On Warriors. First up is Turo, which is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, whatever you want, from a community of local hosts. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for any occasion or budget across the US, the UK, the Canada. It's coming soon. In Australia, you can book a spacious SUV or a minivan for a family road trip. You can get classic luxury vehicles, whatever you want. Turo has it. You could test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on. And this day and age, with parts in meager supply, it's hard to find a good car. So check out Turo. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. And today's episode is also brought to you by, of course, Built Bars, which I need to start eating more of because I've been packing on weight for a while. That is my struggle, folks. I got to get back on the Built Bar tip.
Hook me up, man. Send me some Built Bars. Hook me up.
I will. I'll literally email you and ask for your address. Done. I'll send this. And hopefully, unlike Rick Barry, who just completely lost his whole package, I'll make sure you get yours, sir. And look, they have great flavors. You can try cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper. I love the granola personally. They're revolutionizing nutrition with 100% real chocolate.
Wait. You like granola over the chocolate?
I do. Well, the granola has chocolate as well, so it's a chocolate granola.
Okay. All right,
It's the best of both worlds.
All right.
I love your involvement in this, man. I love it, and Built Bar's gonna love it too. And again, they're packed with protein. That's one of the best parts. It's low sugar, tons of protein, 17 grams on average, only 130 calories on average per bar. Built. You got to try this. 15% off your order right now by using the promo code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. After us, check out Locked On Sports Today and check out Andscape, of course. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Marc Spears on Twitter at Marc J. Spears. What's your title with Andscape? Are you the editor-in-chief? Are you?
No.
What do we call you?
I'm not that important.
Yes, you are.
I'm not making those kind of decisions. I'm just a lowly NBA writer. I'm a senior NBA writer.
Fair enough.
Which
Senior
just
NBA
means
writer.
I've been covering it for a long time.
There you go. Senior NBA writer for ESPN, Andscape, and so much more. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors, Mark. I see you at the games a lot. You're entrenched with this team. You've covered this team extensively. What's your early reaction to this 6-8 start, man? I'm not hitting panic buttons. I actually think Klay Thompson's going to show his old form soon. What are your thoughts, sir?
It's a lot. One, Steph has been sensational.
Yes.
Steph has been sensational. I'm not worried about Jordan. I mean, Jordan's showing you he's going to be fine. There's like a elephant in the room. I'm sure the people like, well, maybe it might be better for Klay to come off the bench. Steve doesn't seem interested in hearing that.
Correct.
For some reason, Jordan seems to play better as a starter, but having Klay come off the bench is extremely foreign. I almost think it's one of those things where it's a respect thing where they wouldn't ask him to do it, but perhaps it might be easier for him to play against the second team, right? Like to come off the bench and then especially if he's not going to be playing in back-to-backs. But Steve knows more than us, right? So if he's not comfortable doing that or doesn't think it's necessary, then it's just a moot point talking about that. The thing is, I would say that I probably am most surprised about was I expected more from the young guys.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot of fans now screaming about, why did they let Porter go? Why did they let Peyton go? Or Peyton decided to go, maybe Toscano Anderson could have stayed, Belly, like you hearing all these names, but nobody was saying that a month ago. So it's only like now that certainly those names are getting hot again. Not, and those guys were veterans. They played amazing for this team. But I expected more from Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman. And, obviously you didn't expect Dante to get hurt, which had more of an effect on this team than I expected them to.
Same.
But that shows you how important he is to their bench. Obviously, Klay's missed some time. Iguodala has not played yet. And, so in essence, it's kind of a wasted roster spot if you think about it.
It is,
that
yeah.
he's not having. I mean, I even think for 10 minutes, even at 10 minutes, he could probably help this team out at this point because he's a guy that's not going to make any mistakes, and he's going to make the open shot, and he's going to make the right play. Like, I think anything from Iguodala at this point, but it's kind of a mysterious situation, right? But hopefully the Warriors can get him on the court right now because I think they could use his veteran leadership.
Agreed.
But I do think sending Wiseman to the G League was smart because I've been watching this kid since he was in high school. He has all the skills. He has all the athleticism. He has all the talent. Right now, it's here.
Yeah,
I could just see it. His body language, his makes a mistake, and he seems like it's the end of the world with every mistake. He plays like somebody that feels like he has no rope to make a mistake.
right.
I'm sure he has put a lot of pressure on himself, understandably so. You miss your first season, you pretty much miss your second season. They win a championship without you, and you get rewarded with the ring, and people expect so much. And so the things that I see is like him not catching the ball, missing mid-range jumpers, like airball him, not taking the ball to the hole, not being physical. He's a great rebounder. He's not rebounding. He's not blocking shots. He looks a step slow. Like something's just not, it's not right because he's not that. And I'm like, I had felt like kind of like about 10 days ago, man, just send him to Santa Cruz and let him stay there till he gets his swag back, till he gets his mojo back, till he gets his confidence back. When he's dominating the G League, then bring him back. And I think he will be fine. He's 21. He's got the weight. He's probably put the weight of the Warriors on him, which is probably not fair. But I think that he'll go down there and find his cape and put it back on. I would tell him to, man, go and stroll that cold beach right now. Go get some clam chowder, some cotton candy, maybe play some video games in the arcade on your free time. Just go relax your mind and get the hoop back. And hopefully within like 2 weeks or so, you see the young old Wiseman back, right? And he's making an impact because what we're seeing now is not him.
Yes,
that's mental. I think his knee's fine. He's running the floor fine. He just needs to get that rust off.
I'm 100% with you. And in just a moment, I want to touch on Kuminga and Moody as well. And just, there's a conflict there clearly between what Kerr. I guess I want to pick your brain on Kerr's entire strategy because I don't follow it at times, and I'd love to pick your brain. First, I got to give some love to BetOnline, and Mark, I'm going to involve you in this as well because BetOnline.net, they're your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis, and they presented to me the latest odds on who is the new favorite for the MVP, and Jason Tatum has taken over that mantle. He's now the 3-1 favorite, followed by Giannis, Luka, Steph, and Ja. In your mind, who is the early season MVP so far?
Well, I wouldn't bet that one. That's too hard. If I had to pick somebody, I might go with Giannis. I might
Yeah,
go with
yeah,
Giannis
he's incredible.
because Middleton's still not playing right, so
Correct.
he's carrying a big load. Embiid's carrying a big load, but I visited with Jason Tatum during the offseason, and he's very motivated to bring a championship to Boston. So he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. So is Jaylen Brown, and so yeah, I mean,
You see it.
good luck,
Yeah.
good luck picking that one right.
And then they had a couple of Warriors props. I'm curious
Yeah,
to
I don't know if I'm betting LeBron James right now. I don't know about taking that one.
150 to 1 to bet on LeBron. Let me ask you, do you think the Warriors look, this is weird. The Warriors are 0-7 to start the season, their worst start on the road since 1989, which is really profound when you consider all the 90s and 2000s Warriors teams. Do you think the Warriors are going to finish above 500 on the road this season? Because you can bet on that with BetOnline.
So right now they have 34 games left. I think so.
Okay.
There's some Houstons and Orlando's coming. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
I think they'll right the ship. Tonight's going to be tough against Phoenix. I'll actually be at their game against New Orleans, but they got Houston. They can't get that Houston game. What, Sunday?
It's coming up. Yeah. It's. I believe so. I believe you're correct. Yeah.
They gonna get that Houston game. Yeah, go on BetOnline and pick that one.
And it's BetOnline's the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow ESPN NBA senior writer Marc Spears on Twitter at Marc J. Spears. He writes for ESPN. He writes for Andscape. Andscape.com is a fantastic website. Highly recommend it. What the Warriors youngsters, we touched on Wiseman, and I totally agree with you. I'm happy he's going to Santa Cruz. But my bigger argument and bigger puzzlement, I guess, with this team is how Kerr's been using the youngsters. I don't know how you're going to succeed this season if you don't give Moody and Kuminga, more specifically, the reps, because they're not going to gain experience otherwise. When they play, usually good things happen. Why do you think Kerr is so hesitant to go to him? I mean, we're seeing Anthony Lamb get minutes. Ty Jerome was getting minutes earlier in the season. What do you think's going on there? What's the conflict? What are your thoughts on that?
With Moody, I was a little confused by, because I always think he does something well when he's in.
Same.
Kuminga's hit and miss. When he hits, it's a home run. When he misses, it's a strikeout, right? There's no middle ground with him. We got to give some love to Pork Chop and what they call him, Pork Chop or Lamb Chop.
You're on it, man. Yes, Anthony Lamb.
I'm sorry,
yes.
I called the man Pork Chop. I'm sorry, Anthony Lamb.
Yeah.
Lamb Chop. I got his nickname all mixed up. They call him Lamb Chop.
It's all
Lamb
good.
Chop and Ty Jerome. Those are two-way guys that look like NBA players.
Yeah.
And perhaps Steve is trust them more now, which is kind of surprising. But they look like they belong when they play. Lamb has made some great shots. Jerome has made some good plays. So it's I think Steve is just going with the hot hand right now after such a tough start, wanting to win. But at some point, I mean, I love Moody. I love his professionalism, his maturity. I'm not worried about him. With Kuminga, it's going to be trial and error.
Yeah.
But his potential is superstardom, right? So I think you're going to have to live with some of his mistakes, have some teaching moments. And I feel like those two guys in particular, they're going to have a bigger role as the season progresses.
I hope so. And my thing with Kuminga is he sometimes has rough starts. And when we talk about, either he hits a home run or he strikes out, but Kerr has no patience for him. He just yanks that leash the moment Kuminga has a bad start and you never see him again. every time he plays extensive minutes, like he does good. He does fine. And
Yeah.
I ask you, Mark, please observe that for yourself, because I've been watching it. And if you give him time, he does good. I don't know. That's just me, but
he's his spark is TNT, right? Like it's a big spark. So there's things that he does just athletically. You're like, wow, you know what I mean? Like he's in a special class athletically. You got to remember, I think he's barely 21 if he's that. He's a young guy, but like he's one of those guys you're probably see, because the Warriors just have different pressures. They're trying to win championships. They're trying to get back above 500. So I think Steve's in a tough place. Like, all right, do I want to live through the mistakes or do I need to win? And right now, I think he wants to go with the safer bet.
I hear you, man. And I guess my gripe has been these safer bets still result in losses. So why not play the youngsters? You know, you cover the entire NBA, and again, check out that Kevin Durant interview. I loved it, and I'm surprised he was so open, given they just gave up 153 points in that game. That was a gnarly one.
Well, you know, they're staying the night in Sacramento. I don't think he had nothing else to do. you know what I mean? So.
I know it's only we're recording this on November 16th. In your opinion, who is your early favorite in the NBA? Like, who are you looking at and going, wow, this team could literally like challenge the Warriors and maybe beat them and be the world champs this year? Who's looking good to you this year so far?
You know what? I don't know that there's one team that's standing out. I think what's standing out is the parity.
Yes.
Like there is some depth on both sides. Like you could probably pick 5 teams on both sides that have a shot right now.
Yeah.
Right. Literally. And there's, I don't know that there's going to be a team that wins 60 games. I just don't think so.
I'm with you.
I know there's some teams that gotten off to some hot starts, but if like Utah's playing well and Portland's playing well, and like, you know, those are some surprising teams playing well. San Antonio's competitive. Even Houston, like you're gonna have to fight against them. Like there's no easy game in the West. Sacramento is for real. I predicted that they'd make the postseason, and everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. But that purple light starting to keep going up now. Like it's Sacramento's for real. And then if you look in the East, like you know, like nobody talks about Atlanta, but they're playing well. You got to show up against the Pacers. You know, there's the Knicks are above 500 team. I think, well, we'll see at the time of this podcast, but
they're right around there. Yeah.
I mean, it's Washington, like they're a team, like there's no, like even Orlando, you got to play with Banchero there when he's healthy. Like there's no easy wins anymore, man.
No.
And that to me, they were like, all right, this night, this team could rest. And you got to show up every night, man. They got a lot of like great young talent, and so to me, this is an exciting time for the NBA because it's not like the days of old or the days of recent where you're like, well, you know, the Warriors in for sure, you know, whoever LeBron's at's in for sure. No, like, you know, there might be a surprise there. There could be 2 teams in the finals that we never would have thought that could make it, because ultimately, when it gets to the playoffs, it's going to be about, you know, matchups and stuff like that. I was just telling somebody last night, I'm like, Kings get to the playoffs, they're like a bad matchup for some teams.
Hell yeah.
With their scoring and with Sabonis rebounding, and Fox is, you know, fastest thing in the NBA, right? Like, there's just like, I'm enjoying this. Other than all the drama, we could go do without all the like soap opera stuff going on in the NBA right now. In terms of the basketball part, it's really exciting.
It's incredible. And the point differential is the most obvious stat reflecting that, right? I mean, it's like historically low point differentials for the top teams. And I think, like you said, there's so much talent that it's just, I'm so excited to see those expansion teams come in. I could talk with you forever. You got to run, man. You just hit Murph and Mac before me. And we're recording this early. At least for me, it's kind of early. But Mark, do
We'll
your
do it
thing,
again.
man. I'm so
We'll do it
excited you
again.
came on.
If I get my energy bars, I'll do it again.
Built bars. I'll get your address. I'll have
Yeah.
those shipped to you.
Once I get those, I'll be like, all right, when we connecting again.
No, you're
This
fine,
chocolate
man.
granola thing is just like outstanding.
I'll ship you some Built bars. I'll get your address. Marc Spears. You can follow him on
right.
Twitter
This,
at
this,
Mark
this, this
J.
granola
Spears.
chocolate. Yeah, that's all right.
I'll get you chocolate granola, sir. That is on the way, man.
It's an amazing meal replacement.
Yeah, I need it. I've been emotionally eating for months, and that's got to stop, man. I'm fat.
Yeah, we look like we need more granola in our life. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure, man. Thank you, sir.
All right, brother.
Take care, everyone.